All right, hello and welcome back to another tutorial in Maya. I can always tell when it begins the new semester because I get the same question time and time again. How do I get my animations out of Maya and into some sort of editing program? So with that in mind, we're going to take a look at how to get some output, because that'll probably be the first thing you want to do when you start messing around with Maya is, sort of save this out as a movie so you can show your friends and stuff on your other computers and whatnot. So anyway, here I have just, basically this is just a background. But here's the animation right here. And what I did is just, output an image sequence from Maya, and it just sort of, it's just a little particle effect. But what we're going to look at is how to output this, as an image sequence from Maya, and be able to bring it into another editing program of some sort. So we'll start with the simplest first, because a lot of times you're not going to have After Effects or Final Cut or Premiere or Sony Vegas. And so we'll start with how to output, an image sequence that we can use in just, a generic program, okay? And then we'll go up from there. So stick around. If you don't know how to output stuff from Maya yet, stay with me. And if you do know how to do this, well, you don't need to watch this tutorial, okay? So here we go. Let's take a look first at, if you're new to Maya, Lester Banks is a great source of CG stuff, and he usually finds Maya tutorials all over the internet. So he's out there day and night trolling, looking for good CG stuff. So he sort of categorizes everything and puts them in a post. So if you're interested, go to Lester Banks and come into Maya tutorials, and he picks mine up once in a while, which is really cool. Thanks, Lester. And that's that. Now, on my channel as well, on my actual YouTube page, you'll notice my subscriptions, and I subscribe to Gaudens here. He's really cool. He does tutorials. He's really motivated in learning and teaching, and so we give him a Deep Fried Ectoplasm Award of Excellence. All right. So I subscribe to Gaudens because he has a lot of stuff on, modeling and doing tons of other stuff. But if you're just starting out with Maya, this is a great little channel. He's done a great job on his tutorials. And let's go down and let's move that subscription level up from 33 to say 500. Okay, so subscribe to Gaudens, and he has good stuff. And he's really motivated to teach your brain some stuff. So go check him out. And as well, I found another guy, and his name is Ashaid. I believe that's how it's pronounced, Ashaid. And he has some really cool stuff on Mental Ray and Maya. Lots of different stuff in here, lots of different tutorials, and he's a, very knowledgeable person about Maya. So go check out Ashaid as well. All right, so there we go. Now, let's go into Maya for the moment and check out something. Normally when you do an animation, you're going to have, say 100 frames, 200 frames, 300 frames, 500, I don't know. In this case, I have 200 frames in my animation. And if I go back to the beginning of the animation and play it, well, I just have, a helix that's sort of spinning in space, all right? But let's say that is my animation, and I want to output this from Maya so I can bring it into another editing program. Well, the easiest way to go in some cases is a little program called FCheck. Now, if you don't have some other types of programs, FCheck is a really good little program. And if I come down here into my dock, FCheck is normally shipped with Maya. So if I click on FCheck right here, I'll just go ahead and click on FCheck. And it basically will play back an image sequence that you've saved out from Maya. So we're going to be using FCheck. And we're going to be coming to our file, and we're going to be opening a sequence because we're going to be outputting a sequence. And so we'll use FCheck after we get done with outputting our sequence. But just on the most simplistic level, that's what we're going to be doing, okay, for just a little portion of this tutorial. So there you go. Now let's take a look at the properties of what we have to deal with when we output this. We know we have 200 frames, and that's cool. And in my last output, you know, it looked like this. I'll do a quick render here, and there we go. So in Mental Ray, if I were to output this, it's just going to be, you know, whatever this was animated, and it's going to look like that. So no big deal. I'll just stay with that for the moment. And I'm not going to render out this sequence. I'll just sort of walk you through the steps of what you have to look for. Because we started this sequence new, what we may want to do is go ahead and click on your render settings right here. And that should bring you up a window that's called your render settings. And in this case, I'm in Mental Ray, but you know, I could be in Maya software, I could be in Mental Ray. The parameters are going to be a little different, but essentially outputting is the same. So let's just go with Maya software right now and just check Maya software. And let's look at our render settings. Our render settings right now are for our master layer, which is cool because I only have one object in the scene and that's it. And I didn't set up any other layers, so that's cool. Now we'll go ahead and make sure you have Maya software chosen. And in the common section here is where we have, you know, sort of some different parameters to play around with that we have to set correctly. And you have to do this in Mental Ray or Maya, but you have to set these correctly in order to get something, you know, output. So let's look at it first as in the simplest. Right now we don't need to really enable any kind of color management, but file output. We're interested in the file name prefix, and in this case I'm just going to name it Helix1, alright, because I have a helix in there. So I'll just do like Helix1, and actually I might do an underscore and just make it you know, a name like that. That way I can instantly recognize this as the IFF sequence output name. Okay, so now we have an image format, and in many cases when you go into After Effects or some other editing program, you're going to probably want to stay with the Maya IFF file for the moment, because After Effects can read this natively and other editing programs can as well. But for the main part I use After Effects, so I usually stay with Maya IFF. But in your case, if you don't have an editing program, you may want to switch this up to say like a JPEG, or you may want to switch it up to a TIFF file. If you go over here into your menu, you can, you know, have lots of different choices for TIFF or Targa. A Targa is going to maintain a transparency channel, and you know, a lot of times when you get into output sequencing or image output, you may want to save some transparency and stuff like that. So normally if you choose JPEG, it's going to disregard all of that. So anyway, there's a number of different, you know, output formats that you kind of have to think about before you output. But the most common are going to be either a JPEG, you know, a TIFF file, a Targa, or in my case, I want the Maya IFF. So I'm just going to leave it at Maya IFF. Now, you'll see where it has a frame animation extension number. Well, this will attach the name and a number to the frame ordering, basically. So usually I like to go, instead of, you know, a name, you'll notice that you can't really do any kind of changing down here or, you know, activate another box when you have this default name dot extension, because essentially this is just giving it a name and then, you know, an extension like a .iff or something like that. But we don't have anything in there that's going to be for numbering. So we want to make sure, and this is, you know, it's a preference, but I like to go with the name, underscore, the number of the frame, and then the extension, okay? So that's usually the best thing to choose, is name, underscore, number, extension. And right away, you'll notice where that freed up some of these. It opened up my options for setting a frame padding, and then a start frame and an end frame. So let's look at the padding first. Because I have 200 frames in my sequence, I want to make sure that my frame padding, you know, is probably set at like 3. And that just gives me enough zeros after there to, or before the sequence, just to kind of, you know, get the whole thing in there. So if you have about 100 frames, use 3. If you have 1,000 frames, use 4. But make sure you put a frame padding in there. Okay, with that in mind, the next thing that's very critical is you look at your start frame. And mine is set at number 1 because that's where we're starting at right here. And the end frame, you can see where by default it's set at 10. Well, that's not right because we have 200 frames. So we automatically have to change this to 200. And we're going to start from frame 1. So it's going to number this sequence from 1 to 200. So that's cool. Those are the critical properties of setting, so that you know kind of how that's going to come out. All right. Now, let's look at a couple of other things. Right now, in this scene, my perspective camera is the only camera that I created. So you can see where it says renderable camera, and that says perspective, and that's cool. And if we do the drop down, that's basically, all we got. Now, if we had a camera 2 in here, if I created another camera, and I think I might do that, let's make this like a 2-camera setup. So I'm going to come up here and create a camera, and I'll just create a normal camera. All right, and let's maybe come in here and look through that selective camera. Let's back off a little bit, maybe come over here and zoom in. Okay. And let's just say that's, my camera angle for, camera 1. Well, great. It's exactly what we want. Now, let's come over here and say we want to output our perspective camera and another camera at the same time. Well, I can go ahead and look at my setting here. So I know that my camera that's going to get rendered first is my perspective. And if I go to the menu now here and add renderable camera, I can now come into my renderable camera here, and actually you'll see where it showed up here. So this is another renderable camera, which is our camera 1. So if you have a number of different cameras chosen, you can just go to this drop down menu and keep adding a renderable camera. So that's pretty cool. Now if you want to get rid of your camera, like let's say camera number 1 for me at the moment isn't animated or anything like that. It's not doing anything, but it's getting a static view. But let's say I don't want that one. I can just click on the garbage can and it goes away. Cool. Okay, now we're almost there. Now we have a preset. I've got 640 by 480. That's kind of standard definition. You can set it to anything you want through the menu here. For the most part, a full 1280 screen is nice. Sometimes I just go full HD. Sometimes I might do it as a 1280 by 720. That just gives me a little bit better definition. And there you go. Okay, and our resolution is normally at 72. You can up this to like say 96 or whatever you want to do. I think I'll just stay with 72 for now, but essentially the higher resolution it gets, the longer it's going to take to render, but that's about it. Okay, so now the last box down here on render options is the enable default light. And just depending on what you're doing, you may want to be aware that this light may or may not need to be on. So enough about that for the moment, but normally when I have a scene lit, I just uncheck this enable default light because I just want my regular lights in there to sort of do the work, and I don't want that default light being on. So anyway, just be aware that that's there. Okay, and then the next thing you want to do is come into your Maya software section, go through your different elements here. It's easier in Maya software than it is in Mental Ray, but you'll have a quality setting where it can either be custom. Normally I choose production quality because that's going to give me a pretty good quality. And you can play around with the different types of filters here for whether you want a Gaussian filter, quadratic B-spline, box, triangle. For the most part, triangle filter for me works pretty good on a Maya render, but you may want to switch your filter type up and then do a couple of different renders on your scene to see what it's starting to look like. So right there, it's kind of looks okay. If I were to click on this, like, so you can see where this helix has defined sides. Well, if I click on the helix here and then hit 3 on my keyboard and I do another render, it normally is going to clean it up a lot, or it's going to smooth it out, but anyway, we won't worry about that for the moment. So anyway, I'm going to hit 1 on the keyboard. click on there. There's 1 on the keyboard, 2 on the keyboard, and 3 on the keyboard. So 3 on the keyboard is basically giving you a smooth mesh. But okay, so anyway, that's that. In the Maya software section, you have a couple of different options for, say, like ray tracing and whatnot. You know, you basically have some different options here, but really for the moment, what we're looking at is just, you know, outputting what we did. So that's cool. All right, so we're ready to go. I'm going to do my preset at HD 720, and now that that's there, all you have to do is make sure you're in your rendering menu set and come up and hit your render and come down and hit your batch render, and I usually go ahead and hit my options there, and I'm going to use all available processors, and then I'm going to batch render and close. And I'll just go ahead and do this for the moment. Let's see, I haven't named this file, but it's going to go into untitled something or other. And you'll notice that when you start off a render down here in the render line, you're going to see where it's cruising along and it's sort of, you know, outputting all those frames. And if you look real closely, you'll see where it's stored at. This is saying it's in my volumes, my media master, Maya 2011 master, default, scenes. It's in the scenes folder, and it's called Helix 1. And it's at point, you know, there's frame 30, and you can kind of watch it happen here as it goes along. Now, sometimes when you're rendering, you may get a warning saying that, oh, you know, it quit unexpectedly, batch render quit unexpectedly, or something like that. And a lot of times it isn't necessarily so. It may be, you know, rendering in the background. It could be rendering in there. So sometimes what I like to do when I'm doing some rendering like this is I like to come up and, you know, we can use F-check, but let's see, here, that's exactly what it'll do. It'll say batch render monitor quit unexpectedly. And you can see down here where it's still cranking away rendering. I don't know if this is a bug in Maya. I don't know what it is, but it does it to me quite often, and it's not all the time. So it's kind of nice that it happens right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit ignore for now, and just sort of make sure that I'm looking at my monitoring. It's pretty much going along right there. So if I come over into my, let's say I want to open up, you know, that folder, and I'm going to go into, let's see here, let's drop that out of there. I'm going to quit F-check for the moment, and I'm going to move my render settings, and I'm going to come into my media master, and I'm going to go to Maya 2011 master and go into my default and look at my default. Let's see, I think it said it was in scenes, and let's come all the way down here and look for Helix. There it is. Okay, so I can tell that it's coming into my, you know, here's the name I gave it, and here's the sequence, and it's going right along. Now if I kind of scroll down here, I can kind of catch up to it. You can see where here it is, and there it goes. So it's cruising right along, 170, 71, 72, 73, all right, 76. So yeah, you can kind of judge what's happening in there as well. So we're at like frame 185, so we're almost done with the sequence right now. 89, there we go. So we know that it's going in there, and we know where it's at, so that's cool. Let's go back into Maya for a second. I'm going to bring that back up. And you can see where it says result rendering completed, see console for information. Okay, well, that is really cool. So now we know that we've rendered out this sequence, but how do we, you know, check it out now? If we don't have any other software, sometimes when you just get Maya and you don't have any other editing programs, F-check might be the way to go. Okay, so I'm gonna click F-check for a moment there, and you can see where it opens up the F-check program. And if I go to File and Open Sequence, because that's what we output, we want to open up our sequence. So I'm going to open that sequence, and I know that it was in that folder, and that it's down there called Helix 1. There it is. All right. So Helix 1 through, yeah, we get it all the way through there. Okay, so cool. I'm going to just click on that first frame. of the sequence, and it's going to play everything else. So if you just activate that first frame, you'll wait for a second and it'll open up in this this FCheck playback window. All right, and so there it is. You can grab this little thing here, and you'll notice that it doesn't play all that smooth. You know, it's sort of doing its thing. It doesn't look all that smooth in here, but you know, we can change that. Now, my controls over here, I've never really gotten to, you know, work very well. It doesn't, FCheck is kind of a weird little program because it doesn't have stops and starts, and usually this, you know, you can do is, like, let's say I take this speed all the way down. Well, it doesn't really take the speed down. FCheck is the weirdest program. But you may only have FCheck to use, okay? So in that case, we're just going to try outputting this from FCheck, and we're going to make a movie of this, and we're going to send it to our desktop. So let's do this. Let's come up here to File and go to Save as Movie, all right? And I'm just going to give this just a random name. I don't know. I'll just type in some stuff there, and I'm going to send it to my desktop. So it's named, we'll name this Helix. All right, Helix 23 or something. And it's going to my desktop. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and hit Save. And you'll notice that you'll get this little, you know, warning saying Select Use Transformations saves only the video data. And what they're talking about here is that if I had transparency in my alphas and some other stuff going on with transparency, it means it's not really going to save it. It's just video data and no external data. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit Use Transforms. All right, so it'll go ahead and do its thing for a moment. And it'll save this to the desktop as a movie. Okay, so there we are. What I'll do is I think we're done with FCheck, so I'm going to go to FCheck and hit Quit FCheck, and I think I'll just minimize my window there and look for my Helix movie, and here it is. Okay, and let me play that through. All right, it looks a lot smoother in here, and you'll notice that it's playing at its normal frame rate. Now this is a normal QuickTime.mov movie, and if you were on a PC, this might turn out to be an AVI. I'm not sure. I just know that you know, for the most part, I'm on a Mac, so it hits that. So okay, so there you go. Now you can drop this .mov into an editing program. You could drop it into maybe Windows Movie Maker, or just QuickTime Pro, or you know, whatever simple editing program that you have to work with. So that's that, and you know, that's essentially the process of outputting your image sequence, you know, into you know, a movie. Now, if you had After Effects, and I don't have After Effects open right now, but you can import that IFF sequence now directly into any editing program that you want. So that's about it. If you're dealing with Mental Ray, you'll notice if we switch over here from render using Mental Ray, you'll have kind of the same choices, but a lot more. In your quality section, I might switch on quality over here, and instead of using draft, I might want to go to production value and give it, you know, pretty good rendering there just as a default. So, but you'll notice that in the comment section, it remains named what I named it to begin with. It kept the frame padding, and that my start frame and end frame is 200, and that, you know, I had a renderable camera there. So essentially anything you type into the, you know, Maya section will also kind of transfer to your Mental Ray render. Okay, so there it is. Hopefully an easy guide to using that. And outputting. Now, there's one other thing I want to show you. There's a little program called, there it is, a little program called MPEG Streamclip, and you know, you can do lots of things with MPEG Streamclip. You can say drop a movie file onto MPEG Streamclip, and there it is. If I hit play, it'll sort of be like a player. If you needed to output this, you could have various export options of exporting it to QuickTime or to a regular DV. You can export this, you know, to an AVI to convert it. You can convert it to an MPEG-4. You know, so you can do stuff like that with this, and you know, essentially that's it. You can set in and out point frames on here. If you just hit, like, say we just wanted to output this section, I could hit I right there on the keyboard, bring it over here, hit O, and now I have an in and out point. So if I hit play, you know, it's basically going to play. Well, when it outputs, it'll output this section from there to there, you know. So I don't know, play around with that. It's a really cool program. It's free, and it's good to have. So all right, there you go. Output some of your stuff, post it on YouTube, and have fun with Maya as you kind of learn it. And make sure you check out our friends over here. Make sure you check out Gaudens. All right, and subscribe to him. I want him to be at 250 soon. All right, at least. All right, there you go, because he does cool stuff. And always go to Lester Banks. All right, you'll find me there sometimes. Great. All right, well, thank you very much for watching. Be a good person. Read the owner's manual, otherwise known as a book. And try and read your help section in Maya as much as you can, so that way it keeps the questions down for me. All right, you guys have fun, and thanks for watching.